What's up, future CPAs? Welcome to a special explainer built to help you lock in this knowledge for the long haul. Today, we're totally cracking the co-op code, zeroing in on net surplus and patronage refunds. If you're in your second or third year, listen up, because we're building a foundation that's going to stick with you all the way to your board exams.
Okay, let's just dive right in. I'm going to start with a question for you. What is the one single most important rule of co-op finance that is pretty much guaranteed to pop up on your exam? Seriously, this isn't just a random fact. Getting this one concept is the key to everything else.
And that rule brings us straight to Section 1. The big idea here is so simple, but for anyone who's been swimming in corporate accounting, it's a total mindset shift. In a co-op, we don't say profit. We say surplus. And trust me, that one word changes the entire game. And look, this isn't just a friendly suggestion. It is literally written into the law. Republic Act 9520 could not be clearer. Net surplus is not profit. It is an excess of payments made by the members. You have got to burn that phrase into your brain. It is the absolute why behind every single calculation that follows. So let's reframe that. Think about it like this. All year long, members use the co-op, right? They buy goods, they use services, and maybe they overpay just a tiny bit on each transaction. Well, the net surplus is just all of those little overpayments bundled together. It's not the co-op's money to keep. It's the members' savings, just waiting to be handed back. And this slide right here, this is where the light bulb should go on. A corporation's profit, that comes from investors wanting a return. The goal is making money, and that money stays with the company. But a co-op surplus, it comes from the members' own pockets. The whole philosophy is service, and its final destination is right back to those members. It's like they're operating in two completely different financial universes. So if this surplus has to go back to the members, how does that actually happen? Well, it's not a free-for-all. The law sets out a super specific, non-negotiable order of operations. Let's break down that mandatory process. To make this stick, I want you to picture a waterfall. This is your #1 memory hack for this entire topic, okay? The total net surplus is sitting at the very top, and it can't just splash down wherever it wants. No, it has to flow down a very specific, legally required path. So looking at it from like a 30,000-foot view, our waterfall has two main drops. First, a big chunk of that water gets diverted into these critical pools called statutory funds. We'll get to those in a sec. Only after those pools are full can the rest of the water continue flowing down to the members. So, what exactly are these mandatory funds? Let's dive into that first drop of our waterfall. These are the non-negotiables. Every single co-op has to do this to stay healthy and serve its community. Okay, this table is pure gold for your exam. Look closely at the keywords here, because this is where they try to trick you. See the reserve and community funds? They're minimums. The co-op has to set aside at least that much. But education and optional, those are maximums. Getting that little detail right is so important. But there's a huge catch with that very first fund. I want you to just look at this number, 50%. This number is the reason people get questions wrong on the exam. And you're probably thinking, 50% of what? The 10% was just mentioned.
And boom, here it is. This is your critical exam hack. For a brand new cooperative in its first 5 years of life, the reserve fund gets a minimum of 50% of the surplus. Not 10, 50. The whole idea is to force new co-ops to build up a safety net fast. They will absolutely test you on this.
So as you can see from this chart, even for a mature co-op, a pretty big slice of that pie gets carved out right away for these funds. We're talking up to 30%, sometimes more, before a single peso goes back to the members. The point is, the co-op has to take care of itself and its community first. Okay, now we get to the good part. After those mandatory funds are taken care of, the rest of the waterfall finally gets to flow down to the members. This is where that whole service over profit idea really shines for the people who own the co-op. So the first way members get value back is through interest on share capital. This is probably the closest thing you'll find to a corporate dividend. It's a limited return, a little thank you for the money you put in as share capital to get the co-op up and running. And then there's the second way, which is way more unique to co-ops, the patronage refund. Now, this is totally different. It has zero to do with how much money you invested. It has everything to do with how much you actually used the co-op services. It's a straight-up refund for your loyalty.
Let's lock this concept in, because they love asking analysis questions on this.
Interest on share capital is for your investment. Patronage refund is for your use. And to make sure everyone gets it, the law has 2 key rules. First, after the statutory funds are paid, a minimum of 30% of what's left must go to patronage refunds. Loyalty gets rewarded first. Second, the rate of the patronage refund can't be more than double the rate of interest on capital. This literally forces the co-op to prioritize and reward participation, not just passive investment. Nailing this difference is what separates a good student from a great one.
All right, we've gone through the theory, we've got the concepts, now it's time for the final sprint. I've boiled it all down to one slide. This is your ultimate LECPA cheat sheet for this topic. Go ahead, get your phone ready to screenshot this. Okay, let's do a rapid-fire review. Net surplus, not profit, it's an excess payment. Reserve fund, minimum 10%, but 50% for the first 5 years. Education, max 10%. Community, min 3%. Optional, max 7%. Patronage refunds get at least 30% of what's left, and the rate can't be more than double the interest on capital. And if there's anything left over after all that, it goes back into the reserve fund. Got it? Good. So let's end with this thought. You've got the numbers, you understand the waterfall, but zoom out for a second. How does this whole system, this core belief of service over profit, completely change the financial DNA of an organization? How does it affect every decision they make? That's the real lesson here. If you can answer that, you haven't just memorized this topic, you truly understand it. Good luck with your studies.